Thank you for taking the time out to join us. Please, throughout the presentation, we ask that you keep yourself muted so that our presenters are able to present and speak well and you're able to hear them so we don't distract anyone. My name is Kayanne McDermott. I'm a naturopathic doctor at True Vine Wellness. And tonight, along with Dr. O, Dr. Ann, Dr. Nkem, Melissa, we are presenting this to you talking about gut health, right? Because there's so many issues that goes on that no one knows or realizes that there's a connection between gut health, being stressed out, the immune system. They actually speak to each other. They connect, right? They're the same neurotransmitters are talking to each other. So we just want to come on here and present this to you guys. And we're going to get started in a couple seconds. So I'm going to have Dr. Ann come on and introduce herself, and then she will be introducing Dr. O, who will do the presentation for us.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Ann EJ, and I am a naturopathic physician. I'm currently practicing in the DMV area. So my practice is focused a lot on women's health, but I do tend to see, a lot of people ranging from diabetes, hypertension, and autoimmune disorders, and so forth and so on. So I'm very excited about tonight's presentation. Just like Dr. K said, we have a lot of awesome doctors and specialists that's going to be giving you some information about gut health and how it connects, with the immune system. So with that being said, I would like to introduce Dr. Oshinubi, also known as Dr. O, who's going to start our presentation tonight.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ann and Dr. McDonough, Dr. Kayanne, for putting this together. All right, so we're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. The one thing I need to be able to do, though, is to be able to stop everybody's camera from showing. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that right now. Anyways, so if you don't mind just cutting out your camera for me, please, I'm going to share my screen, and that way everybody can actually see what we're going to do here. Okay. Thank you. All right. So my name is Omowumi Oshinubi, Dr. Oshinubi. I have been practicing medicine for more than 30 years. My background originally was in anesthesiology, pain management. I trained in the UK and at Yale University School of Medicine, and then went into occupational medicine and environmental medicine. I'm a university professor in occupational and environmental medicine. I work with veterans, and I really got interested in gut health for many, many reasons in terms of, the patients that I work with who have chronic illnesses, medically unexplained illnesses, and, people really don't know what to do. And that's how I started to do some research on this and, came to see that gut health is really very important. So today we're going to talk about the interaction between stress, the gut, and the immune connection. So I think that I'm already recording this, but I just want to be sure that I am doing so. Let me just see. Yes, I believe I am recording already, but let me unshare my screen just to be sure. And we'll take it from there. 1 second.
You're good.
All right. Thank you. All right, so we're going to get started now with the presentation. And I know the evening is, people want to get to what they need to do this evening. So we're going to do this in, less than 1 New York hour. That means I'm going to speak a little fast. All right. So I've given you an introduction about myself. Listen, there is no presentation that we can talk about today without actually talking about the pandemic, right? 2020, the year of the pandemic, and now we are into 2021, and this pandemic is with us. And it has affected us in profound ways. At least 8 or almost 9 out of 10 people say that the coronavirus has impacted their lives in very important ways. Events have been canceled, life as we know it, in many ways have been canceled. But if it was only the social cancellations, that would be fine. But that's not it. There have been so many deaths now from this that The amount of deaths is more than 500,000 deaths and counting. And that is more than the deaths from the World War I, the Vietnam War, and the Korean War combined. So this is really a tragic situation that we're dealing with in the country. We're hoping that it will get better, but as a matter of fact, the latest data shows that the numbers are still rising even with the vaccination that's ongoing. Now, so we know that this has been a very stressful period for us in America, of course, all over the world, but I'm going to focus on America because that's where we're at right now. So the American Psychological Association reviewed what's going on with our nation in a survey that they did in 2020. And they do this survey every year, and they've been doing this survey since 2007. And what they found was that the average rated stress level in adults has increased significantly. So if you look at your stress from, the worst stress being 10 and 1 being little or no stress, the average stress increased from 4.9 in 2019 to 5.4 in 2020. And depending on who you ask, like if you were a parent, the level of stress tended to be higher than if you were not a parent. And parents are also worried about the long-term impact on their children. 71% of parents are worried about the effect on their children's social development. And also that almost more than half of the parents said that their children were acting out, have been acting out more since the pandemic began. So this is affecting us all in very profound ways. And what are the sources of stress? Worry and concern about getting the virus. 7 out of 10 people, more than 7 out of 10 people, disrupted schedules, basic needs, access to food and housing, access to healthcare services. As a healthcare provider, I have been stunned about, just to see how many people have not had access to healthcare services because of the impact of the virus on our society, and also just the concern about the spread of the virus. And of course, economic concerns. When you look at 2019 compared to 2020, you can see that the concern about the economy has almost doubled. And of course, work stressors have also increased. So all of these factors are contributing to the stress that we're experiencing, not just the healthcare issues related to the virus. So why is the virus such a problem for us? We know that it's a highly infectious multisystemic inflammatory disease, even though it is a viral in origin, high risk of serious disease and death. For those that survive the COVID virus, after infection, 4 out of 10 of them go on to develop something called the long haul COVID or post-acute COVID syndrome, which we'll touch on later on. There have been questions about treatment. Of course, we know there was the hydroxychloroquine controversy, even though there's some data now to show that it does help. Ivermectin has been shown to help a lot of people. Antivirals have been helpful. Now, of course, we have the vaccines that are being rolled out. There have been questions about short-term and long-term side effects, questions about, stressors about whether we'll need vaccine passports, whether or not the vaccines are fully protective. So all of these questions remain. We don't have answers to all of those. So this still remains a high dread disease, and social distancing and isolation continues. Of course, when the virus hit, we were wondering, who is at risk? We were told, oh, it's like almost every condition. If you have any condition at all, right, you're at risk of having serious disease or illness from the COVID-19 disease. Having said that, though, what the data has shown is that the large ticket items in terms of the risk factors are actually just a handful of them, right? So we know that 7 out of 10 people are worried about getting the virus. So they need to know, what is it that makes people at risk of having the virus? Well, when they looked at those that were hospitalized because of the virus, 9 out of 10 of them had one of these underlying conditions, one or more of these underlying conditions. If they had high blood pressure, obesity, chronic lung disease, diabetes, or cardiovascular disease. Those are the big ticket items in terms of risk factors for serious illness or death from the COVID-19 virus. And when we look at it, right, is it just in certain areas that those diseases predict the risk of death? No, when they looked in the South, for example, in Louisiana, if you remember in the news, there were a lot of deaths in Louisiana sometime last year. And they also look at New York. I mean, these were epicenters. And what they found was that hypertension, diabetes, liver disease, kidney disease, obesity, hyperlipidemia, coronary artery disease, these were really the risk factors, even when you look at the different regions So it's not so much to do with regional or socioeconomic factors in that way. It's really these underlying disease conditions that are problematic as far as surviving the virus is concerned. So we know that the virus attacks the lungs, at least that's our initial understanding. We understood it as a lung disease, right? You breathed it in, you got into your lungs somehow, and that something went wrong with the lungs, and the inflammatory cells kicked in and they were putting out their cytokines or the chemicals. I call it the inflammatory soup, alphabet soup, right? Interferon gamma, TNF alpha, interleukin 1 beta, interleukin 6, interleukin 1A. So these are what we call inflammatory cytokines. And when these cytokines get released in the body, they cause all kinds of symptoms. And that symptom is widespread. And this is what people experience with COVID. It's the fever, problems with blood coagulation, problems with their serum protein issues. It's debilitating. It causes abnormalities in the lipid composition of the blood, liver damage, kidney damage, low blood count, and all kinds of metabolic derangement in the body. So that's what we understood it to be. But what we later started to find out that it's not just the lung damage that's the problem. That actually the depth of the problem with COVID is that if you already have a compromised gut, for people who have what we call intestinal permeability, why do we have that? From our lifestyle in America, the Western dietary pattern, right? The high carbohydrate, gluten-rich food, energy excess with abnormal composition of bacteria in our gut, right? That causes something called intestinal permeability or something called leaky gut. When that happens, it sets us up for havoc or sets the individual up for havoc because the virus and anything else that's not really supposed to get into your bloodstream from the gut gets in there. And when it gets in there, it puts out what we call these pro-inflammatory cytokines that I mentioned earlier on. If you remember that inflammatory alphabet soup that I just kind of rattled off, I don't expect you to remember it all, by the way. Just remember it's an inflammatory alphabet soup. When that happens, it causes many things to go awry in the body. First of all, on a chronic basis, we're already doing this anyways to ourselves before the virus showed up on our doorstep, right? Based on our lifestyle and our diet and all of that, and the toxins and the chemicals that we're exposed to. So all of those pro-inflammatory cytokines tend to make us put on fat cells around our abdomen because the fat cell is there trying to protect your abdomen from this kind of chronic inflammation that's going on. So people don't understand that when they're putting on belly fat, it's not so much because they're eating a lot of calories. That's part of it. It's because of the chronic inflammation that's going on in the gut. And that is part of what is causing people to put on this abdominal fat. The problem with the abdominal fat, though, is that it is active. It is bioactive, and the abdominal fat also puts out its own inflammatory cytokines. So the body now has a lot of this cytokine soup that's swimming all over the place, and it affects the brain. When it affects the brain, it causes symptoms, the depression, the anxiety, we'll talk about that later on. When it affects the peripheral nerves, it causes inflammation of the peripheral nerves, so people start to get numbness and tingling and peripheral neuropathy, and they don't understand why they're having that. It causes problems, with the pancreas, predisposition to type 2 diabetes, causes problems with the liver. Before we used to think, oh, if you have a problem with your liver, like fatty liver, that's because of you were drinking a lot. These days, fatty liver is not so much because of alcohol, it's because of our dietary pattern. And also muscle wasting because of the inflammation, right? So your muscles start to shrink. So this, we call it metabolic endotoxemia. And that is what's really happening in the body from, our lifestyle, even pre-COVID. Now, when COVID hit, right, it really accentuates this metabolic endotoxemia. And when you talk about this cytokine storm of COVID, that's what's happened. So when we think about pattern recognition, the COVID doesn't just affect the lungs that's causing the inflammation in the lungs, it's causing inflammation all over the body. Now, let's talk about the interaction between the gut and stress, because that's really important, right? So in America, in general, we're chronically stressed. You know, we are running from here to there, helter-skelter, not getting much sleep, a lot of screen time, you know, balancing so many, juggling so many activities. And so we're chronically stressed. So what happens when you're chronically stressed? Your body is putting out cortisol, you know, through the brain axis, it's putting out cortisol. Well, cortisol is a pro-inflammatory hormone. And what it does is that it releases, when cortisol gets released, it causes inflammation, not just, you know, around the blood vessels and all that, but really in the gut. It makes the gut even more hyperpermeable. So for someone who already had intestinal permeability, right, from either the toxins in the food or the bacteria or a viral infection or trauma, because that also causes increased intestinal permeability. When you add stress to that, it makes that intestinal permeability worse. So when you're now thinking about us as a nation, we have the virus and then we have the stress. All of those things, it's kind of like a double whammy that actually becomes almost like a downward spiral. And so if we have an understanding of what's going on in the body, we are in a better position to put it right and kind of make us you know, a little bit more resilient to what's going on around us. And so there's the whole concept of the gut-brain axis, because what happens in the gut, the bacteria in the gut is going to increase. If you have abnormal bacteria in the gut, or if you have intestinal permeability, it causes this inflammatory cytokines to increase. And all of that is transmitted through what we call the vagus nerve in the gut, and, you know, through the enteric nervous system to the brain. And it kind of causes like a smoldering inflammation, or I would say low-grade fire in the brain. So what does that really mean, right? So that's happening on a day-to-day basis. What are the things that trigger that leaky gut syndrome or inflammation in the brain, right? It's our diet, right? I mentioned this earlier on, the standard American diet or the South American diet, nutrient deficient but calorie dense. Immune dysregulation can cause that. We talked about trauma, we talked about toxins, we'll mention toxins a little bit later. You know, infection, stress, all of those things cause neuroinflammation. And how does neuroinflammation manifest? It manifests for different people in different ways. For some people, it's difficulty with sleeping. They don't understand why they're not able to sleep, right? For some people, it manifests as depression. For some people, it's like, you know, they have difficulty focusing or with attention. Autism has been associated with neuroinflammation. It's not the only explanation for autism, but it has been associated with autism. Anxiety, brain fog. Many people who have, you know, during the time that they have COVID, they'll tell you they couldn't focus, they can't concentrate, they can't read anything. And later on, you know, for those who are, you know, long haulers would say, brain fog is a difficulty that they are dealing with. Memory loss and dementia, these are all associated with neuroinflammation. Now, I know this is a very busy slide and I don't expect you to remember everything that's on this slide, but what I would like you to take away from this slide is this. What's happening in the lining of the gastrointestinal tract, which is on the left-hand side, right? The oxidative stress from abnormal bacteria that's there, the intestinal permeability, it's causing a disruption in metabolism, and it's causing inflammation in the gastrointestinal tract. That gets carried through the bloodstream and through the nerves to the brain. And when it goes on for long enough, chronic, for many years, it has been shown to contribute to diseases that we don't want to have. The big ticket ones, Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's has been classified as type 3 diabetes, right? It causes Parkinson's disease because it contributes to ALS, or the amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So basically what I'm saying is this: what happens in the gut is a mighty important contributor to what happens in the brain, both in the short term and also in the long term. So we cannot afford to ignore what's going on in the gastrointestinal tract. So I mentioned COVID long haul earlier on. It was about mid-2020 we started to see reports of people who are not recovering as well as we would expect them to. I mean, most people would get the flu and after a few days, they just get up and go. They're done with the flu, but with COVID is different. And that's because of this persistent new inflammation that's going on in the body, particularly in the brain. We don't have the exact picture yet, but what we do know is that people are having, difficulty thinking, difficulty with their daily activities. I do have a number of patients who are having difficulty with this. And our goal really is to dampen this inflammation in every way, shape, that we can, right? We want to kind of quench this fiery furnace that's going on in the brain, albeit low-grade inflammation. So what can we do? What can we do to make things better? I've talked about all the bad things that are going on. What can we do to make things better? Well, the research is really emerging that COVID-19 and metabolic syndrome are very closely linked. And the scientists are saying, well, you know what? Diet may actually be the key in terms of how to dampen down the inflammation that's going on in our bodies, right? The gut microbiome, if you haven't, you may not be familiar with that term, but in our body, we have more bugs. The microbiome in our body is a lot more than the cells that we actually have in our body when you count all of them. So we're more bug than body, actually. And these microbiomes, they put out chemicals, and these chemicals can be beneficial or they can be harmful depending on the ratio of the good versus the bad bugs. And when you take an antibiotic, it basically wipes out your good gut, your good bacteria. So you really have to work on getting your gut health back once you've been placed on antibiotic. One dose of antibiotic can wipe out your good gut bacteria for 2 years or more. So it's very important when we take antibiotics to make sure that we are taking good care of our gut. All right. And there's data to show that it's not just the gut, but it's also affecting the endocrine system, the thyroid function, diabetes. People are developing diabetes post-COVID. They never had diabetes before COVID. Post-COVID, because of the inflammation that's affected their pancreas, they are now getting type 2 diabetes. And of course, it affects the mitochondria of the body, the mitochondria, which is the power cell of the body, the powerhouse of the cell. So people, have fatigue and all of that. So these are areas of emerging research that I would like you to be aware of, that it's showing up in the literature. Again, the gut microbiome is very, very important. Healing the gut is incredibly important when we're thinking about this COVID pandemic. So the question then is, this doesn't sound very good. Do I have metabolic syndrome? Well, there are just a few things you need to know. You can actually diagnose yourself. Well, you may need help. You will need help from your healthcare provider, but if you have a waist circumference that's more than 40 inches in a man or 35 inches in a woman, or if your blood pressure is more than 130/85, before we used to think that was normal. Actually, no, it isn't. You should be in the 120s systolic and below 80s. If your fasting blood sugar is more than 100 milligrams per deciliter, and if you have high blood lipids, right? This is what qualifies for the diagnosis of metabolic syndrome. And the metabolic syndrome has been associated with so many other conditions in the body. I'm not going to go through all of them. We talked about the hypertension, but it also causes problems with the vasculature, the endothelial function, the cells that line the blood vessels, the bone, right? Osteoporosis is actually an inflammatory condition. We never knew, people don't really understand that when they say, oh, you have osteoporosis. Well, yeah, it is a chronic inflammatory condition. Insulin resistance we talked about, and we talked about liver conditions, even something like polycystic ovarian syndrome, right? It has been associated with metabolic syndrome. So in medicine, we do a great job of treating acute problems, acute inflammation, right? Like allergic reaction, if you have an infection, trauma, burns, cuts, frostbite, all of those things cause acute inflammation. That's really to protect you from injuring yourself further, right? It's a protective mechanism. And your body is really supposed to heal from that, within a few days or a few weeks. But when you have chronic inflammation, something has gone awry. What was supposed to protect you has not gone awry. And then over time, it manifests in chronic illnesses such as cardiovascular problems, neurological conditions, cancer, lupus, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, arthritis, autoimmune diseases. So all of those conditions are chronic inflammatory-based conditions. So what does that mean for us as a nation, right? All these conditions, we call them the metabolic disease clusters, obesity, they are associated with premature death. On the one hand, the cardiometabolic ones, the insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, atherosclerosis, hypertension, and stroke. On the other side of the equation, you've got the cancer, the asthma, sleep apnea, osteoarthritis, neurodegeneration, gallbladder disease. All of these conditions, for individuals that experience them, many people don't have just one, they tend to cluster. For those people, it can be a challenge because it's very tough for conventional medicine to manage all of those conditions in such a way that people actually have good quality of life. You kind of live at the doctor's office, and this is what we're trying to avoid. And the lifetime estimate of obesity costs about more than $90,000 per person. I'm like, that's a small house someplace or a very expensive car. So anything that we can do to actually improve our health and not have to deal with these conditions is really worthwhile. So what does that mean for us as a nation? We know that 6 in 10 adults in America have a chronic disease, and 4 in 10 of adults in America have 2 or more of these chronic diseases. It is costing us a lot of money in terms of healthcare dollars. Annual cost is more than 3.5 trillion. And almost half of US adults are at increased risk of complications from COVID because of one or more of these conditions. And this is from the CDC. So what does that mean for us? This is kind of like looking at an elephant in the room, and depending on the perspective that you look at it, you might think, oh my goodness, the trunk looks like a spear, right? Or the tusk looks like a spear. Or if you're looking at the back and you're looking at the tail, it looks like a rope. But the bottom line is that it is one big problem. It's just that the perspective from which we look at it is very different, among specialists and in the way that we look at this as a condition. The same thing when you look at the SARS-CoV-2 virus pandemic, right? If depending on how you look at it, you might thinking, oh, this is a viral epidemic. But when you actually drill down to the bottom line is that it really is a chronic disease epidemic that has been accentuated by a virus that has caused rapid illness and death. So when you have a pandemic like the virus that's co-occurring with an epidemic of chronic illness like hypertension and diabetes and chronic inflammation and obesity and stress, that is what qualifies it for a syndemic, right? It's a combination of the two of them, and the combination of them actually makes things a lot worse. So what does that mean for us as healthcare providers? Typically when something happens, you go to your primary care provider with the symptoms. Yeah, I don't feel good. They do an exam, signs, they figure out the signs. And then they start sending you to different places. It's the liver, it's the kidney, it's the brain, it's the gallbladder. And then you go to all these different specialists, and all of them look at you through their little lens and address it that way. And nobody's really looking at why are you having all of these different problems, or why are people having these different kinds of problems? But there's a better way of looking at things, because if you start to drill down and you start to look at the trunk that serves that tree, let's say those specialties are the leaves and the fruit of the tree. When you start to drill down at the trunk, look, there are things that actually predispose us to having these conditions, the antecedents, the things that happen like maybe in our childhood, earlier life, right? Or the way genetics, for example, would be an antecedent, for example. And what are the triggers? So for example, in this case of the COVID, the trigger, the virus is the trigger, but the antecedent really was the intestinal permeability that they had before. And what are the mediators? Like if you have a deficiency in vitamin D, you're not going to have enough. You don't have enough to be able to withstand the virus because your immune function is already compromised. Or maybe you're still drinking, high sugar drinks or high fatty meals. Those are perpetuators. If you're not sleeping, they're mediators that are going to make things worse. And so all of those are actually rooted in lifestyle, sleep and relaxation, exercise and movement, nutrition and hydration, stress and resilience, relation networks. If you have positive relationships, you are able to better withstand some of these issues versus if you don't. So it's good to be kind and nice to others. Trauma, of course, microorganisms, we talked a lot about the virus, and then environmental pollutants. Please do not forget. This is huge, and this is my area of expertise when we're thinking about toxic exposures and how that affects health. We're going to touch on, one of my colleagues will touch on that a little bit more. So in Western medicine, we treat the symptoms per organ, we go to the specialist, but in functional medicine, we treat the person as a whole. We look at the root cause and we treat those root causes. And we also look at mind, body, and spirit and factor that into how people are experiencing health and wholeness, and hopefully circumventing illness. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to my colleague, Melissa Urban. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and she's going to give us some potential solutions for how we might be able to navigate what we have before us and give us solutions. All right, so let me turn this over to you, Melissa. I'm trying to find you here to make you a host. I'm trying to find you here, so 1 second. I am not seeing on the screen, Melissa.
If you click on participants and they pop up, you'll see my name.
I'm looking. Maybe I need to put on my glasses. 1 sec. I'm seeing everybody but you. Oh, you know what it is? I need to scroll up. That's it. That's because you are the first person on here. Thank you. All right, Melissa, I'm going to make you a host now. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll go off camera.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can share my screen, which I didn't expect. There we go. Oh, I think that's.
Yeah, that's it. But I think
yeah, I don't think it's going to. Oh, okay. There we go. Welcome, everyone. My name is Melissa Urban, and thank you for joining us tonight. Sorry if there's a little bit of an echo. I'm not sure what that is. So I'm excited to share with you some more information tonight about some answers to what you're hearing when it comes to the world of your body, COVID, and gut health. So I've been coaching and helping people for the last 7 years on just ways to live better, be better, and be preventative. I am a wife and a mother, and I was introduced to this from a friend of mine. PURE stands for People United Reaching Everyone, as a health and wellness company for the last almost 13 years internationally. We've helped to give people answers to whole health and financial freedom. And, I fell in love with this philosophy I'm going to walk you through tonight because my father passed away at 64 years old of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And my father-in-law suffered from Parkinson's for about 10 years. And, both neurological diseases. And we just heard about the gut-brain connection. So I think it's important to understand, how we can be preventative in our health. So this company we're going to share with you tonight and some answers, was founded and utilized in a nutrition clinic for 30 years on real patients. We have a wellness advisory board of medical doctors that teach and educate us in the nutrition, and have gotten 7 of our products in the physician's desk reference. Now, a lot of people talk about, you are what you eat, you become what you don't eliminate, but food truly is medicine. And it's not about eating less, it's about eating the right foods and nutrition in your body. And we want to learn how to heal the cells with every bite that we take instead of harming them. I think a lot of the food that we consume on a regular basis is, we try to grow organic gardens. I have one in my backyard, and that organic food, goes bad very quickly. It's hard to, keep in the fridge, and people are looking for answers. I think they're understanding that, our food now is very depleted of nutrition. The crops that we have grown are, not the same that of the food that was, grown years ago. So it's definitely something to consider. And people always ask me, you know, oh, if I eat, you know, spinach and eat apples and oranges and corn and wheat today, you know, isn't that okay? But if you look here, this is just an example of, you know, eating 8 oranges today versus 1 orange, you know, years ago, the different nutrient content and calories that are involved to even come close to what your body actually needs. So kind of a scary thing. I mean, who's going to eat 80 cups of spinach? So people know that they need to supplement, that they need to fill in the gap, and they go to the store and they kind of go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then they go on their computer and they try to order on Amazon and they get little to no results. You know, most people have a cabinet full of things that are not working because they're synthetic, their body's not absorbing them properly. And it's really about getting the right nutrition at a level where your body knows what to do with it. You know, and as a country, yes, we are undernourished, right? People eat fast food, they eat on the go, they eat a lot of genetically modified foods like corn and wheat and soy, prepackaged foods. There's so many hidden chemicals and additives and preservatives, and of course, our overfarmed soils. You know, most health issues are a result of being toxic, out of balance, and undernourished. And, you know, most people are toxic, acidic, and inflamed. And that goes back to the inflammation issue that Dr. O was recently talking about. As far as the toxins, I think we know it's there, but we don't really think about it on a regular basis. You know, the pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides in our food, the pollution in our air that we're breathing in every single day. Of course, the chemicals we drink in our water and that we shower in, and, you know, chlorine and fluoride and all sorts of things that are in, that we are putting into our bodies that may not be the best. You know, and of course, prescription medications. So we are in toxic overload in this country. We're definitely out of balance. From our stress, as this past year has been very stressful. High amounts of sugar. I was one that was definitely addicted to sugar. I didn't know it years ago. I grew up kind of eating and drinking whatever I wanted. I was an athlete. I was into fitness. I taught group fitness for 11 years. I didn't know I was addicted to sugar. I didn't know I was on the verge of leaky gut. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So understanding how food is medicine is very powerful. And of course, technology now is playing a role in our health, and of course not getting enough sleep. So what is the answer? The answer is cleanse, balance, and build. This is an age-old philosophy backed by science and will never change. If you can cleanse the toxins out of your body, balance your pH and your hormones, and build your cells up with good nutrition, your body has the ability to heal itself. So what is Pure? As I mentioned, we're a 13-year-old health and wellness company that really wants to provide you with one-stop shopping. It's a company that you can trust, third-party testing of all our nutrition and ingredients. We have 7 products listed in the physician's desk reference, and we operate out of FDA-approved facilities and FTC compliance. So something that really matters when you want to bring this into your household. So we want to talk to you from the health side, from the inside out. Most people worry about what they look like from the outside in, but it all starts with your gut. So welcome to the Core Plus. I wanted to stop here for a moment and touch on these 7 products. This is the foundation of what we teach every single day. Again, the age-old philosophy of cleanse, balance, and build. But I really do believe that these 7 products are transformational for most people's health. Number 1 is the cleanse, the little bottle you see there on the screen. So again, this is in the PDR. It's going to help to clean out all 7 channels of elimination: liver, kidneys, lungs, lymphatic system, skin, blood, and colon. And it's like giving yourself that healthy oil change. Again, you just heard how toxic, acidic, and inflamed we are. So how are you getting those toxins out of your body? You know, people try to do juice cleanses and different cleanses that may just address the colon, but this addresses so much more, right? So there's many more channels of elimination. It's very gentle, safe on the body, and can be taken at night before you go to bed. Next up is Goyin in that blue bottle there. That is our balance blend. You know, again, are you stressed? Do you have hormonal issues? Are anger issues, depression, highs and lows, mood swings? I think we know people that fall under those categories for sure. So Goyin has a clinical study. It's 20 superfruits that are cooled and warmed together. It's the yin and yang of whole body balance. It tastes great. Even kids love it. So that's personally been a game changer for me. As a woman going through hormonal changes as we age, super, super important to have Goyin on hand at all times. And then daily build. If you're looking to fill in the gap for what you're missing after you just heard us talk about how deficient in nutrition our food is because of our soil, right? How do we get enough nutrition to feed our cells properly? That's where Daily Build comes into play. So Daily Build is 23 vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, superfoods, superfruits, CoQ10, quercetin, turmeric, so much more. We've done all the homework and research for you. You just need to take 1 ounce of it a day with food to help fill in what you are missing. And yes, we are all missing something. We know how important it is for your gut to have high amounts of vitamin D3 and C and A and E and, you know, the probiotics, and there's so many components. And yes, it works as a whole. So Daily Build's a perfect answer there to fill it in. Now we've got energy in the middle of the screen there. So that's a plant-based drink. It's also in the PDR. It is 6 to 8 hours of mental clarity and focus. Do you struggle with focus? Do you work long days? Are you staring at a computer screen all day long or your phone? So we really use our brain a lot more than our body these days. So I think it's important to have the neuroreactors in our brain fire with something that's alkaline and good for you. You know, coffee's very acidic, part of the standard American diet. People drink pots and pots of coffee. They don't really understand how it's burning out their adrenals. It's making them so acidic. They're certainly not drinking organic coffee necessarily. So this is a great alternative, and you can drink it hot or cold, a little bit of natural caffeine. We've got Mila in this purple bag here. So this is your omega-3s. We know omega-3s combat almost every illness and disease out there. And omega-3s in a food form like this, a plant-based gluten-free food that you can cook and bake with on a regular basis is awesome. So your potassium and your iron and your magnesium and your fiber, soluble and insoluble. And of course, those omega-3s, 3,000 milligrams, like I said, in a 2 tablespoon serving, life-changing for a lot of people. Mental health, gut health, sleep, cholesterol, blood pressure, mood, weight loss, you name it, that's a powerhouse for sure. Onto the right side of the screen, we have organic sulfur and coral calcium, calcium MK as we call it. So organic sulfur is a mineral, not sulfa, the antibiotic. This is a mineral that comes from the lignin in pine trees. It's actually grown in the state of Washington. Looks like white kosher salt, and it's a little bit bitter, but it's going to de-inflame the body. The number one thing that Dr. O was just speaking of, okay, we want to reduce inflammation, not just during a pandemic, but all the time. You know, your body's under stress, your body's under tons of inflammation. Even exercise causes inflammation, right? Even though exercise is good for you. So we want to balance that out in a natural way, lubricate your joints, oxygenate your blood, create new skin cells in your body. The benefits of organic sulfur are amazing, and we introduce it slowly to the body morning and night. And then coral calcium with magnesium. It's super important that every body with a body have access to the best gluten-free vegan form of calcium magnesium together with vitamin D3, of course, vitamin K, selenium, boron, and a couple other things in there. The blend is amazing, so your body can absorb it. It's shuffled to your bones rapidly. We take it in the evening hours, as magnesium may help with sleep. Okay. So a couple testimonials I just want to share. You know, I've helped over 3,000 families in the last 7 years come off prescription medications, feel better, live better. People like Summer, who has a family with 4 kids. There's 6 of them. She was a migraine sufferer on tons of dangerous medications. Her son is on ADHD medications, and all of that has gone away thanks to Pure. We have an older couple here actually who he was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years on tons of infusions and steroids, and nothing ever worked. Scary side effects. Did our detox program, of course, working with their doctor, and now off all medications, losing weight and feeling amazing. You know, we've got thousands of stories from brain fog, getting off, you know, the sugar cravings, making your vitamin D levels normal, even when you're on prescription vitamin D medication, and the list goes on. I personally have no more allergies, have no more joint pain. I was born covered in eczema, so my skin issues have resolved. You know, my leaky gut has been a work in progress for years, and I'm so thankful I have access to the right nutrition to aid in that progress, you know, maintain my weight and learn how to keep my body into balance. And a big reason has been the detox program you see here. So this detox program we're going to share with you tonight, and you're going to hear from Dr. N.K. Makpala in a second. it's just a great way, like a metabolic reset to your body. People are always looking to feel better, sleep better, have less pain, less brain fog, less digestive issues, less depression and stress, but learning how to eat right and incorporating a little bit of intermittent fasting as well. So here's Dr. Nkam Okpala, who you're going to hear from in a second. And as she pops on the screen, we'll share her story, how she went from the person on the left of the screen to the person on the right of the screen. Was overweight and obese and took on this detox and the pure nutrition, and now educates and teaches her clients and patients on ways to, have food as medicine and cleanse, balance, and build her body. So Dr. Nkam, are you there? You can pop on the screen and share your story. There you go.
Hello. Thank you,
Hello.
Melissa. Hi, thank you so much, Dr. O and Melissa. I hope everyone is enjoying this presentation as much as I am. My name is Nkam Okpala. I'm a wife and mother of 4, and my husband and I work as physicians in the state of New Jersey. Almost 5 years ago, I was morbidly obese. The scale was ding ding, tipping over with no numbers. So I guess it was over 350 pounds. And someone introduced me to this concept of pure. And since then, I've lost over 150 pounds and healthier, way healthier in my 40s than I was in my 30s. And using it, helping people in my practice as well, getting people off prescription medication, using the philosophy Pure has of cleansing, balancing, and building the body up. It's amazing. I really love our detox because it's just the ability, the way you can actually reset your metabolism. If there's a key word Dr. O used today, it was inflammation. That is so important. Inflammation is actually what is causing most of the problems in our body. That is what is causing our illnesses and diseases and destroying our immune system. We see multiple patients that have autoimmune diseases. Some people just present with back pain. That's all. We do extensive testing and we find out that they have like parasites, back pain, right? Parasites, parasitic infection. They cannot remember going anywhere, having any contact with anything that would actually cause parasites. And your normal lab will say over on parasites negative, right? And they say they are fine, but then further testing will reveal that they do have that. And healing their gut with our no-need probiotics, Immune 6, Mila, has given them a whole new lease to life, as opposed to being on ibuprofen for a very long time and still not breaking through in those symptoms. Hypertension, patients that have hypertension with diabetes, getting on prescription medication because they're giving their body what it needs. People that have normal blood work but feel so tired, extensive testing, still so tired. You know what, get on the Core Plus or get on the Be Healthy, which is multiple products that Melissa talked about today. Probably don't have time to tell you everything that we have. Sure, make sure you get back to the person that invited you. And then they start to feel better. The fatigue is gone, they sleep better, they are no more moody, the depression is gone because they started healing their gut. That big connection through the vagus nerve is so important. I really do believe that our gut is our first brain, quite frankly, because most of our neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. If the gut is well, then our brain is also well and the rest of us is well as well. So the biggest excitement for me is the ability to actually give my patients options other than prescription medication. Prescription medication has its place, very temporary, not for the rest of your life, right? Because your body will develop tolerance to those medications, produce adverse effects on those medications. And then what happens? You start from one medication and end up on 25 medications, right? Increasing your risk of depleting your immune system, increasing your risk of being positive from this pandemic and not doing very well, right? People still have complications from it. So the solution now is, how can I build my immune system? What can I do to actually build it up? Starting with our products, basic Core Plus will actually open that door for you and you start to feel better in different ways. Your sleep is improved, your pressure is improved because then you're increasing circulation, right? Your blood pressure is better. diabetes better because you're actually resetting your metabolism, reducing insulin resistance, which is reversible. Insulin resistance is very reversible. So it's not a death sentence. You don't have to be on insulin for the rest of your life. Well, except you have type 1 diabetes. Your body does not have any insulin at all. So you definitely need insulin. But type 2, it's reversible. You can actually get off those medications if you so choose to, working with your physician. So I hope if you have any questions, we can answer whatever questions you have. I hope whatever we've said today has actually enlightened you and piqued your interest on taking better care of yourself and your family as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Encam. And I'm just going to point out, some where places that you can have access to this nutrition. I mean, Pure is really one-stop shopping for all things health and wellness, as far as, having it delivered right to your door at a discount. So think of it like Amazon meets Whole Foods and Costco, all mixed into one. Our website is livepure.com. And as you heard some of the doctors talk about, and we go through the Core Plus philosophy, our detox program, which you're going to hear more about. And of course, immune boosters. We have a non-GMO informed sport line, and our amazing wildly harvested superfruits as well. So we're here to help you pick your package and get started at your level and needs. Now, I just want to add on at the end here, a lot of people deal with financial stress that also contributes to poor health. Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever been stressed about money, finances, which lead to anxiety, insomnia? People have heart attacks, deal with migraines, ulcers, and pain. So here at Pure, we have a lot of help in that department as well. And a lot of people join us as our Refer and Earn program. So consider getting a Pure Lifestyle Pack to help you get the best discount and return on your investment. And we can show you how to share this with other people. Our Refer and Earn does involve, a couple great perks along the way, and the support of our team, and some life-changing information and education. So from personal development to financial health and, nutrition health as well, we have it here for you. You can learn more about all of our products on purelifechangers.com. This is a website put together from a physician assistant that we work very closely with. She has a degree in clinical medical sciences, and all her research is on this site. So write that down, and you can learn more about each and every product we offer. You can also ask to be part of our Facebook community called Changing Lives with Pure. Use the search bar in this group and search for different topics, and ADHD and type 2 diabetes and insomnia, and you'll see thousands and thousands of testimonials there. So we encourage you to get back with the person who invited you today so that you can get your health and wealth back on track. So thank you so much. We're going to now open it up for some Q&A, and with the help of our panelist of physicians and Dr. K, Dr. O, Dr. Ann, of course, Dr. Encam.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Dr. Encam. I think Dr. Lola, I think you're also on the call. Would you like to join us as a panelist? Thank you so much, Dr. Lola. Listen, let's give you a couple minutes to speak, and then we'll let Dr. Ann and Dr. K and take it away for the Q&A. Dr. Lola, what has been your own experience with Pure?
Yes, Pure has been a great life changer for me personally. I have doctorate in nursing practice. My husband and I own and operate a Good Life Medical Center here in Memphis, Tennessee. And when I got introduced to Pure, I was looking just to changing my own life, getting off all this pain that plagued me every morning when I wake up with back pain, hip pain, and lose some weight. And not only have I lost over 20 pounds, no more back pain for me, and I feel great, no more tiredness before I come back after seeing so many patients each day. I'm totally exhausted. I come back and just sit and dragging my feet for ready to go to bed, and then the following morning do the same thing. But since I started taking Pure, this has been since last August last year, I don't have to feel the tiredness anymore. I feel great, and I started introducing it to my patients, And truly, it has been a blessing. So many of my patients that have tried it, I've seen them come off their prescription medication. I've seen them testifying of losing weight, energized and more focused. The list goes on and on. It is truly plant-based that the body sees as food. You can't go wrong with that. And flooding our body with nutrients, like you rightly said, and Dr. Inkin said, it helps the body to heal itself and also take our name off those complications of ill health that otherwise will have happened. So if you're here looking at this, look no more. This is it. Jump right into it. I love Pure, and my whole family takes it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lola. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Ken and Dr. Ann to help modulate the Q&A. I'm already seeing some questions coming up in the chat room. So please put you can put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute to ask as well. But if you put it in the chat box, it's easier for us to just kind of coordinate that. Thank you. Dr. Ken and Dr. Ann, over to you.
My patients come in and the financial stress is actually affecting their pressure. They are so inflamed, it's affecting their gut health. They are so sick, it's actually causing autoimmune disease. And what is the problem? Financial stress. Pure is actually an answer to that as well. And it's stress-free finances. Doesn't mean you don't work, but while you're working, you're drinking Goin, right? And taking sulfur and cutting back on the inflammation and sharing it with those that you love, right? Those that you care for. So you're making money and getting healthy at the same time. That is awesome. I mean, in our practice, I'd rather see my patients well than sick. So if the financial aspect is stressful for you, go back to the person that invited you and consider doing this as a business as well. Really important. If I did not like medicine, I tell my husband every day, I would do this 100% eyes closed. But I like medicine, so that's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nkem, and thank you, Melissa. And I just want to hand this over now to Dr. Ann and Dr. Ken to close us out. Thanks so much. And Dr. Lola and Queen Esther, thank you so much for your contributions.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you to our awesome panelists. Thank you for everybody that took out their time to join us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. And if you are looking for more information on the products that we talked about and to, start your journey on a better health, and if you want to also help with the financial strain, Pure is a great place to do that as well. So if you are looking for it to start, your health journey and your financial journey as well, please reach out to whoever invited you, and we can get you started. So this is recorded, and if you would like the recording, please let us know. We can send it out to you. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great night.
Have a good night, everyone. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.